Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Bebop here, and today we're going to be going over the sword bearer build. It's a Greatsword and the Blunderbuss. So this will be a very popular build. I would assume the Greatsword is excellent for ranking up. You can break enemies' stamina real quickly with a nice heavy attack, and basically with the Greatsword, all you want to do is heavy attack, not light attack. That's what it's built for. It also has great offensive and defensive skill trees that you can go with. I'll explain those here in a bit. The Blunderbuss, really good if you want to hit something, you know, 10 meters or in, or maybe 15, 20 meters out. And then also you can do CC with this. You can add burns, and this is really good. Also, to use the Blunderbuss, you can use it without ammo, which is cartridges. But if you want to, you can also slot them in and use them. It's basically 2 shots starting off, and then you reload. It's a nice shotgun. And let's get into the attributes. So what does these two weapons scale with? Well, the Greatsword scales with strength first, then dex. So here's the Greatsword. Strength, comma, and then dexterity. So you would want to spec into strength first and then follow up with some dex. Also, the Blunderbuss scales with strength first and then intelligence. So with this, you're going to be putting more attributes into strength. Maybe go here to, you know, the 50 point on dexterity if you want. Now starting off, 50 points is a lot, so I would go into strength and then I would just spec into intelligence, so that way you get damage with both of them. And then you can go right here to the 5% critical hit chance on the dexterity, and that should be enough for a while. I wouldn't go past this dot, the 50 dot for intelligence. Right here at the 25 dot, you get 5% damage increase to backstabs and random critical hits. And then 5% damage increase to targets inflicted with a damage over time effect. You could just go to the 25 here, spec into strength, and then start going into dex, because Greatsword is going to be your main DPS weapon, and then the Blunderbuss will be backup. Let's go over the weapon skill tree here. I'm going to start off with the Blunderbuss, okay? There's a few different ways we can go here. Mortars, I would just go ahead and say, is more for OPR. I wouldn't even, you know, PvP like OPR, big match arena stuff, I wouldn't even use that. I think it's one of the worst perks in the tree. Definitely 100% always grab Shrapnel Blast. Fires 5 shots horizontal like a fan in front of you, pushing yourself backwards. Each shot deals 45% weapon damage, so it always select that first. Usually I put that on the F binding, and what that's going to do is you can shoot regular, and then you can use your ability, and then you can shoot regular again. So it shoots that fan of shots horizontal to hit multiple enemies in front of you. Now, let's go, not to the life staff. Scary, let's go back. Now where I would go from here is I would go splitting grenades. It's gonna shoot 2 grenades out. Upon detonate, 3 mini grenades will, and I guess it's 3, will disperse and explode 1 second after landing, dealing 85% fire damage in a 3 meter radius. So you can start off with a shot and then hit your one ability, shot, and then hit the grenade. That's gonna do some fire damage. Now to extend that fire damage, oh my gosh, why do I keep going to live stuff? You could click deal 25% increased damage to targets greater than 50% of health. That's always really good. Any grenade that hits grants haste, increasing movement speed by 20% for 3 seconds. That's going to help give you some movement speed. Then splitting a grenade and explosions inflict burn on hit, dealing 10% weapon damage per second for 10 seconds. I would start off like that, and that way you can get some burn going. And here we go with the grenade. Boom. And now it's going to inflict the burn any meters in this whole big area, okay? Then what I would do as far as ranking up, I would go blast shot. If you wanted to go claw shot to, you know, grapple onto an enemy and pull yourself forward, that's fine. If you're doing more PvP, net shot is really good. It can slow the targets down by 40% for 3 seconds. This in PvP is so annoying. I swear, it's so annoying. When I'm trying to run away, and what I mean run away, Bebop don't run away, bro. I just fight in a different direction, okay? The net shot right here slows you down, and it is just like, yeah, I'll just go ahead and lay down here and die. And then I would select this dot right here. Adds Rend, decreasing armor of all targets afflicted by the ability for 10 seconds, or for 10% for 6 seconds. So what that's going to do is that is going to blast shot them right there. It's going to add a stack of Rend, and then you can get into your other abilities. You can really get some damage going. All right, after that, I would select this dot right here. Holding onto 2 loaded ammunition for 2 seconds after reload will load a 3rd active ammunition. That's a really good dot to have. And while you're ranking up, you could select this one, deal 10% increased damage to any target as long as you have not damaged them. But I would also recommend you just start going down the tree on this blast shot because it is really good. Increase the range of this attack from 12 meters to 16 meters. It's going to give you more range. Fire 4 additional pellets with each use of this ability. Each individual hit from this ability or from the Blunderbuss primary fire will lower the cooldown from this ability 1.5%. Each individual hit basically from the ability will cool it down, so that's good. Fire a singular bomb that at the center of the fan that will plant itself into the world and explode, dealing 100% weapon damage in a 3-meter area, 1 second delay. So with that, now when you shoot the fan shot out, it drops that bomb right there, and now it'll do some fire damage. Then you can get into your blast shot, and they'll knock them down on their butt, and then you can shoot grenades, and here we go. Now with the 2 different skill trees, it's going to be interesting. Both of them are really good. Once every 30 seconds, your next ability will have its cooldown reduced by 50%. So when you're ranking up, you're not going to have a lot of refreshing and cooldown stuff. So that is really good. Now, this is also really good. Next shot fired within 6 seconds after triggering an ability will have 8 pellets instead of 6. I would recommend just going this side. And whenever you take a hit and your health is below 50%, gain Fortify, increasing armor. You could wait on that one. Right here, use an ability, reduces all over ability cooldowns by 4%. You could take that earlier on if you wanted to, but for me, I would use the Blunderbuss just to get the dots going, the damage over time effects from the fire, and then I would get to my Greatsword immediately. You could take this too, increase damage to any targets as long as you have not damaged them in the last 8 seconds. Direct abilities increase by direct damage from abilities increase by 15% if the victim is 10 meters away or farther, and then that's going to get you your cooldown right here. Now, if you're good at headshots, you could pick this one. It's going to reduce your cooldowns by half a second for every pellet hit for the headshot, which in the early game is pretty easy to do. So you can feel free to take that one. And then over here, definitely select this one. Reloads give you a damage boost 4% for 6 seconds. Last shot loaded into Blunderbuss will do 15 increased damage. And I would select this one. Whenever you take a hit and your health is below 50%, gain Fortify, increase in armor. That could be good. That could save you if you needed to. Now, if I was going to select this with the Greatsword, as far as I'm going to put most of my points in a Greatsword, what is the minimum amount of things I want to select here to run? That I would definitely do the grenade, 25 increased damage to targets greater than 50% health. And then I would select the blast. And then I would select the blast shot with the rend. And then I would just put everything else into your Greatsword. So that's going to at least give you some CC with the blast shot. It's going to be able to knock them down if they get too close. You got this, it's going to do good damage. And then the fire burn from the splitting grenades. Then I would go to Greatsword, and this is where I'd really spec a lot of points into. I wouldn't waste too much time on the Blunderbuss because this is going to be your main DPS weapon. Now, a lot of new players love the crosscut. I would say just try not to get used to that. It's not that good in the game. It's fun to use because it does look cool. What you're going to do is basically it's auto going to hit. I don't have to press any buttons, and it does 3 hits like that. Now, what's the cooldown on that? Like 15 seconds. I would say just don't get used to that. A lot of new players pick that. That's why I'm telling you, just try not to get used to it. I'm going to go with a full offensive build, but I'm going to show you how to use it as a defensive build in the same way. And I think it's really a great way for people to learn the Greatsword. I would start off right here. Heavy blade, charge heavy attacks at 15% armor penetration. Then I would go relentless rush, dash through foes while spinning and apply 20% slow for 4 seconds on hit. And so this is going to be good to go ahead and get yourself some movement, and you can go right through the enemy, and you're going to be in what's called the onslaught stance. When you see this guy in the onslaught stance like this, doing the windshield wiper when he blocks, then that is the onslaught stance. I'll show you the defensive stance here in a minute and what that does and the benefit. So let's continue on. I would select Skyward Slash. If you want to apply disease, you could select down here. You can go down the tree on the dots. If it does a follow-up attack, does 140% weapon damage, which is fun. The main point of Skyward Slash is to add the 2 stacks of rend. And that will be basically 10% rend on the enemy. Also staggers the enemy in case they're about to do a big hit on you. And then I would come over here immediately and select this. While you're at full health, reduce damage taken by 20%, then gain 20% fortify. I would select this, base damage increased by 3% for any greatsword buff on you. And then right here, you'll have inherent bleed. Charge heavy attacks now have grit and inflict bleeding for 6 seconds, dealing 5% weapon damage. So your charge heavies now have grit. Grit means your character lights up in white and you cannot be stopped from doing the attack. It's also going to cause a bleed for 6 seconds. So let's look at that real quick. So I would come up to my target. I would Skyward Slash to get the rend onto them. You could even do that if you wanted to, and then you just start swinging away. All right. Now, if you're doing criticals, it does more damage, obviously. And I'm at the front of the dummy, so just kind of showing you. It does stack the bleeds, and that's going to tick for 6 seconds, so it's really good. And then what you could do is select the Roaring Rupture. These 3 are really good to have, especially in PvE, because this is what you're basically going to run every time. Now, if you're tanking with the Greatsword, then that's a whole nother subject. I can get into that in a different video because it's very in-depth. So where I would go from here is cleanse 2 debuffs on you after you're using Roaring Rupture. So if the enemies hit you with rend or weaken, you can get rid of that. And then right here, in Defiant Stance, which is a defensive stance, the Shockwave pushes foes outward 3 meters. In the Onslaught stance, the Shockwave pulls foes inwards to you. Okay. Now, I would also select this. The Shockwave applies 10% weaken for 10 seconds. And that is really good right there. So, I'm going to have to show this. Now, you're going to have to try to pay attention to it. When I go into what's called the Onslaught stance with the sword down, and I do the Roaring Rupture, watch the Shockwave around me. It comes inward. See how it pulls into me? And now this is the defensive stance. So now when I swing, I'm going to have a little blue shield in front of me. You see that shield? And that's going to help protect me when I'm swinging against enemies that are trying to hit me. It's going to give you about 3 seconds or so of blocking the enemy damage, or a lot of the damage. Now, if I'm not in the Onslaught stance and I'm just in the regular stance and I hit the Roaring Rupture, the Shockwave goes out, which will push foes out. Now I'm in the defensive stance, and if I want to swing, I got the shield in front of me to protect, and I can do damage. So there's 2 different ways to use this. You're not going to do as much damage as you would in the Onslaught offensive stance, which is this stance right here. But you're going to be more protected. And any situation, it depends. If you're fighting a boss, I would definitely, probably use more defensive stance while you're getting used to the game. And that's going to, help you survive. If you're just fighting regular mobs that are weak, and you can just take them out with the Onslaught stance, you'll be doing a lot more damage. And just just keep in mind, when you're in this Onslaught stance, you do take 15% more incoming damage. So for the extra damage you put out, you're also taking in. So be careful on that. But if I see 2 enemies here and I want to pull them and group them together so I can kill them quicker, I can do that. And then Relentless Rush, and now they're grouped together, and I can swing and hit both of them. And that's all you want to do is heavies. So after that, that's pretty much all I'd select on this side. And then I'd come over here, increase base attack for 15% when attacking foes that are 90% health. You could choose that. Gain 10% empower for 10 seconds after hitting a target with Relentless Rush. Reduce ability cooldowns by 50% when you kill a foe. After dodging, gain 10% empower for the next 3 hits within 10 seconds. So you're going to get basically 2 stacks of empower. You could do this inner Onslaught stance by hitting it with a charged heavy attack, and that'll immediately put you into the aggressive stance for if you do a heavy attack. I would come right down the tree here, gain 20% haste for 5 seconds when hitting a target in the Onslaught tree ability. Become energized by landing critical hit, regen 5 stamina and 5% base health per second for 5 seconds. Critical hit chance is increased by 10% when attacking foes with the active debuff. Onslaught stance, your next attack within 5 seconds has a 100% critical chance rate. All right, so that basically means when you go into Onslaught stance, your next crit is automatically going to be a critical right there, the orange number. You have white numbers, you have yellow numbers, and you have orange numbers. Orange will be the best. That would be the criticals. And that's what you want to try to get the most of. Now the ultimates, I would always go left side. I wouldn't go right side. Right side, I guess, is more for defensive tanks, but still always use the left side when tanking. With the Greatsword, heal for 5% of the damage from attacks. Attacking with 3 seconds of blocking an attack heals for 15% of the damage dealt. This might be better for PvP, not PvE. Right here, hitting foes with Greatsword reduces cooldowns. Light attacks 2%, charge heavy attacks 10%. Now with this last dot, I would just go ahead and select this for fun. And that's going to also give you this slam down ability. Boom! And you're going to do a nice hit. Nice critical hit. And then you can get into this. You hit your roaring rupture, spin out of it, and now reposition yourself to go ahead and hit both enemies with the heavies and just keep heavy attacking. That's all you want to do. And my cooldowns are going down every swing. So then I have my abilities back. And here you go. So that's the Greatsword and Blunderbuss build in a nutshell, and that's exactly what I would do. I would only spec to that on the Blundy. If you really enjoy the Blundy and you want to use it a lot more, feel free to spec it out how I first did. And then the Greatsword, I would spec just like this. All right, well, that's the build, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. That's the Swordbearer build. This follows up. This is the last video of the 7 presets that are going to be in New World Eternal. The beta comes out tomorrow, Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So I will see y'all in the beta. I will be on US servers for this character. I'm going to be back on Maranara, as some people say. So I will see y'all then. Hope you enjoyed the video. I stream every day on Twitch, so feel free to stop by and like, comment, and subscribe if you're new here. And I will see you on the next one. Later.